Benefit amounts are changing. The federal government has made a shocking announcement. It will affect millions of retirees and Medicare beneficiaries, and some people may see a decrease in their monthly benefits soon, and so this is actually some important news that you have to know. As I said, here are some big news. In a new announcement today, Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services said that Medicare beneficiaries will see their Part B premiums decrease in 2023. That's the first time in more than a decade that the tab will be lower than the year before. The standard monthly premiums, everybody, will be around $165 in 2023, a decrease of $5.20 from 2022. So the reduction was signaled earlier this year by Health and Human Services Secretary Xavier Becerra. This comes after a large spike in 2022 premiums. Medicare beneficiaries had to contend with a 14.5% increase in Part B premiums for 2022, and that raised the monthly payments for those in the lowest income bracket to $170, up from $150. Joe Biden highlighted the drop in premiums at a recent event, using the announcement to tout Democrats as the party that will always protect Social Security and Medicare. President Biden criticized the plan laid out last week by Kevin McCarthy and some Republicans. He called their agenda a thin set of policy rules with little or no detail. The president also slammed Senator Ron Johnson of Wisconsin, Rick Scott of Florida for their plans that suggest that Social Security, Medicare should be discretionary spending rather than mandatory program. A key driver of the 2022 hike was a projected jump in spending due to a costly new medicine for Alzheimer's disease. However, since then, the prescriptions manufacturer has cut the price. The agency has said that it would actually factor lower than forecast spending into the 2023 premium. Not only that, but also spending was actually lower than projected for other Part B items and services, which resulted in much larger reserves in the Part B trust fund. Not only that, but allowing the agency to limit future premium increases. The annual deductible for Medicare Part B beneficiaries is set to be around $200 this year, a decrease of $7 from 2022. Not only that, but one of the benefits of the Inflation Reduction Act from President Biden, folks, which Congress did pass before, is going to kick into effect next year for Medicare beneficiaries. Starting July 1st, cost sharing will be capped at $35 once a month for supply of covered insulin, and the Medicare Part B premiums comes as seniors are expecting a larger than usual increase in their Social Security payments. The annual COLA, which will be announced next month, is also being fueled by inflation. For 2022, seniors received a 5.9% increase, the largest in decades. It was quickly overrun by soaring price increases. And now, what do you think about this? Is President Biden doing all that it takes to send out the 14th stimulus payment and help out our seniors?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate that. The new Fresh Start Act will be available soon.
Does the gentleman yield back?
I yield the balance.
The gentleman yields back. Who else seeks recognition?
Chairman,
What purpose does the gentleman from New York seek recognition?
move to strike the last word.
Gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for your leadership. I also look forward to the Steve Cohen Fresh Start Act in the coming days or weeks, and appreciate the gentleman's work in this area. I rise today in strong support of H.R. 5651, the Fresh Start Act of 2021, a bill to help states that already have record sealing or expungement laws in place to automate their criminal records. Criminal records can make it substantially more difficult to find work, housing, or get access to education. People who want to be productive, follow the law, and contribute to their communities are too often hindered by the scarlet letter of a criminal record. That is why nearly every state has some form of criminal record sealing on its books. These laws are beneficial, but the process for filing for a record-clearing petition can be complex, cumbersome, and costly. To enable Americans to receive the second chance that many of us on a bipartisan basis agree should be forthcoming when someone has paid their debt to society, many states are working to simplify the process. The Fresh Start Act of 2021 will support these efforts by providing federal funding for states to improve their automated record infrastructures. While the states have been clear leaders in this space, we have an opportunity here to utilize federal resources to to help them implement their initiatives and deliver on the promise of a fair criminal justice system that believes in the power of redemption and rehabilitation. I'm proud to support this critical bipartisan legislation sponsored by my friend, Representative David Trone, and so many others, including Representatives Rodney Davis, Dan Crenshaw, Stephanie Bice, Lisa Blunt Rochester, and many members of this distinguished committee. I also point out that this legislation that helps ensure that people can successfully re-enter society and be productive citizens is a crime-fighting technique that will save taxpayer dollars by helping to ensure that individuals who want to live productive lives can do so, contribute to American society, and limit the temptation for folks, because of obstacles they confront, to go back into a less productive life.
It's finally happening. State governments will begin sending out payments to millions of taxpayers. The IRS also revealed a big stimulus check announcement for many households with children. And new $3,600 stimulus payments will be available very soon. So here's some big news. Democratic lawmakers in the House and Senate have finally reached a deal for the state budget surplus. The Illinois governor said the plan will provide $1.8 billion in relief for taxpayers. In the proposed budget, suspends a tax on groceries for 1 year, freezes the motor fuel tax for 6 months, and doubles the property tax rebate up to $300 per household. The plan also provides direct checks to families making less than $200,000 for an individual household or $400,000 for joint filers, with $50 per individual and $100 per child, up to 3 children per family. The governor's office has announced that the plan will also include back-to-school tax relief for families and teachers. The governor's office said the plan includes $1 billion contribution to the Budget Stabilization Fund and an additional $200 million pension payout. In the official statement, the governor said, "Our plan delivers more than $1.8 billion in tax relief to Illinois residents, adds $1 billion to our state's long-depleted rainy day fund, and doubles down on our efforts to make unprecedented investments in public safety." The Senate Republican leader released a statement saying in part, "What is most unfortunate about the Democrats' budget plan is we have an opportunity right now to provide permanent tax relief for the people of Illinois. Yet instead, the Democrats are choosing to provide one-time checks. So friends, if you filed taxes independently in 2021 and made under $200,000, you'll be getting at least a $50 check in the mail. Joint filers who have brought home less than $400,000 in 2021 will get a $100 check. That means the max amount of money for an individual filer could get is $350, and the most a joint filer could get is $400. The deadline for most taxpayers to file a 2021 tax return was already April 18th, but days prior to that date, around 66 million filers had yet to send in the tax declaration. But the IRS is still accepting tax annual income reports, and the sooner you file, the better. The IRS urges all people, even those who are not required to file this year, especially given the enhanced tax credits which were available for the 2021 fiscal year, including the child tax credit. The agency advises those taxpayers who owe taxes to file now to limit penalties and interest. Taxpayers that don't owe taxes will not be penalized for filing late and can still claim the child tax credit for the 2021 tax year.
Related to the nominations be printed in the record and that the President be immediately notified of the Senate's action.
Without objection. The question is on the nominations en bloc. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed nay. The ayes have it. The nominations are confirmed en bloc.
I ask unanimous consent the Senate consider the following nominations: 242, 868, 869, 870, 871, 872, 873, 874, 875, 876, 877, 878, 879, 880, 881, 882, 883, and 884. And all nominations on the Secretary's desk in the Air Force, Army, Marine Corps, Navy, and Space Force. That the nominations be confirmed en bloc, the motions to reconsider be considered made and laid upon the table with no intervening action or debate. That no further motions be in order to any of the nominations, that the President be immediately notified of the Senate's action, and the Senate resume legislative session.
Without objection.
Mr. President, I have 3 requests for committees to meet during today's session of the Senate. They have the approval of the majority and minority leaders.
Duly noted.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that the Senate proceed to the consideration of SRES 603 submitted earlier today.
The clerk will report.
SRES 603, recognizing and supporting the goals and ideals of National Sexual Assault Awareness and Prevention Month.
Without objection, the Senate will proceed to the measure.
I ask unanimous consent that the resolution be agreed to, the preamble be agreed to, and that the motions to reconsider be considered made and laid upon the table with no intervening action or debate.
Without objection.
And finally, Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that when the Senate completes its business today, it adjourn until 3 p.m. on Monday, May 2nd, and that following the prayer and the pledge, the morning hour be deemed expired, the journal of proceedings be approved to date, the time for the two leaders be reserved for their use later in the day, and morning business be closed, that upon the conclusion of morning business, the Senate proceed to executive session to resume consideration of the Frost nomination. Further, that the cloture motions filed...
Joe Biden also wants to send out more direct stimulus checks to people this year. There's also very important news for families that are expected to receive an expanded monthly child tax credit payment.
Child tax credit and the earned income tax credit, which together are the biggest step to help families and working people in this country in a generation. We tripled the earned income tax credit, which meant that 17 million workers without children benefit from it.
Now folks, the whole goal of this channel is to provide you with the most up-to-date and reliable stimulus check information, so you want to be sure to continue watching this video. So we all know the expanded monthly child tax credit payments were temporarily paused back in December, but there's still more money coming to people for 2022. Now that tax season has arrived. The final enhanced child tax credit payment for 2021, including any money you didn't receive in advance, will arrive with your tax refund. The final payment will be at least half of the total child tax credit, or more if you opted out of advance payments, added a new child to the family, or significantly changed your income last year. To make sure you get the rest of your money, keep track of letter 6419 from the IRS. It's going to tell you how much money you received in 2021 and the number of qualifying dependents used to calculate payments. And make sure all the information on the letter is accurate before filing your taxes, otherwise there will be a delay in your tax refund. The IRS started sending out letters to families in late December. If you haven't received yet, keep an eye on your mailbox, because some people and their letters are still in transit. That letter contains important information about your child tax credit payments that you're going to need to double check for accuracy. For instance, the number of dependents used to determine the amount of money you get. If you don't receive a letter or lose it, don't panic. All the important information that you need for your 2021 tax return can be found on the IRS website with an online IRS account. In fact, because of some reporting errors in letter 6419, the IRS recommends double checking your information on the IRS website. They insist that the information in your online account is accurate and up to date. If you and your family meets the eligibility requirements and you received each advance payment between July and December 2021, you can expect to receive up to $1,800 for each child ages 5 and younger, or up to $1,500 for each child between the ages of 6 and 17, just when you file your 2021 taxes. There is no limit on the number of children who are eligible for the expanded child tax credit, but your income will affect the amount of credit you receive. The credit starts decreasing at $75,000 income, at $75,000 of income for single filers, or $150,000 for those filing married jointly. It phases out completely at $220,000 and $440,000 respectively. If you opted out of partial payments before the first check went out, you'll get your eligible amount with your tax refund, up to $3,600 per child under 6 and $3,000 per child ages 6 to 17. Any payments you missed due to IRS errors or because you unenrolled should be included with your tax refund. And if you're missing money from one of the previous checks due to an IRS error or outdated information, well, either wait for the issue to be resolved when you file your taxes, or you can file a payment trace with the IRS. Note that if you gained a dependent since then, the IRS wouldn't have that information on file. If that's your case, you won't get any money until you file taxes. If you had a baby by the end of December or adopted one, you'll be eligible for up to $3,600 for that child when you file your taxes, everybody. That includes back pay for the July through December advance payments and the chunk coming with your refund. You should get that money when you claim your child on your tax credit, folks.